Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's Up With That, the show that brings you interesting people, places, cultures, and subcultures here in the South Bay, the San Francisco Bay Area, the state of California, and beyond. And tonight, what's up with the Gentlemen's Fighting Club? What is a fighting club? And why would someone want to join a fighting club? Well, when I was little, my mom always told me that fighting never solves anything. Well, that's when I was little. After growing up watching several videos, I learned to realize that violence has become such a phenomenon that I might as well just go with it. Well, we have a group here today that's gone further than going with it. They are the Gentlemen's Fighting Club, and what they do is they fight with everything. I mean, you got a chair, they'll beat you with it. You got a pan, they'll bop you over the head with it, and you will like it probably. Anything. There's no limits, I guess. Well, we'll find out. Joining me tonight from the Gentlemen's Fighting Club are, and we're going to try our best with these names because you all know how good I am with them, Gins Clemanis. Did I do that right?
How are you, Andrew? That's perfect.
Hey, that's a miracle. All right. We got Shinsu.
Hey, you got that right.
See, and we're on a roll here, and we got Nick Sanders. That was the hardest one of all. Welcome to What's Up With That. Thanks for coming.
Well, thanks
all
for
right,
having
you
us.
ready to rock and roll, boys?
Yes, we are.
All right, well, let's start off with what is exactly a fight club?
Well, we look at it as an activity for self-defense training. We made it into a bit of an extreme sport. So how would you define a fight club? I'd say it's 100% fighting, non-commercial, and no instruction. It's basically a time and a place for guys to show up and fight, test themselves. It's not really anything about, propagating violence or anything like that. It's an extreme sport where we test ourselves in person-to-person combat. Afterwards, give each other a hug, have a beer, and watch it all on videotape.
Soon to be in the X Games, right? It would actually be very interesting in the X Games. I'd like to see how CBS would handle that. So how did your fight club get started?
Well, we all have a background in martial arts training, and we decided to try it with weapons. We always thought, okay, well, you touch somebody with a stick and boom, they're down. And we
smack
outside of class without smack, whoosh, boom. We tried it. Apologies are necessary. We tried it outside of class, and we found out, hey, we didn't die. So we started swinging harder.
That's a good thing,
Yeah, we started swinging harder, and it was really interesting to find out if we could defend ourselves against someone swinging not just a stick, but pretty much any object around the house, be it a blunt aluminum training knife, not sharp, to long wooden sticks, about 28 inches long, to pans, to
this is great stuff here.
soda cans in a pillowcase, bar of soap in a towel, chairs, mops, pretty much anything we could get our hands on, as long as it doesn't really have a sharp point and won't cause a critical injury.
So people show up with things, do they have to be like pre-approved by somebody? Is there a standard set here? I mean, if I showed up with like, a tree trunk or something.
I think the key is
I have some in my backyard, and if you want to use them,
you've got to find someone who's willing to fight you. I mean, if you bring a tree trunk, you might have to ask around a
I can
bit.
give you one if you need one, is what I'm trying to say.
Actually, if someone actually show up with a tree trunk, we may consider fighting it because that's exotic object,
A little hard to lift.
Yeah. What is the weirdest thing that someone's shown up with?
We've had some crazy toys, but I would say, I don't know, what's been the craziest thing that you've ever seen?
Well, the racquetball rackets were pretty good.
Yeah, racquetball without the ball was pretty funny. That was kind of a surprise, because we're used to playing these sports where you direct your aggression at the ball, and we're kind of involved in this whole movement to de-ballify sports in a way. So
we move it to a new dimension.
Yeah, so there's some scenario training involved. What happens? You're at the country club.
Right.
Things go a little wrong. Someone steals your court. Things get a little out of control.
You just get that racket.
You get the racket.
All right.
No,
I understand. I have thought those thoughts. I will admit it. So why do you fight?
As in, what do we get out of it?
Yeah.
Well, largely, man's role in society is kind of like the protector. Take the bullet, women and children first. And
Conan the Barbarian.
yeah, that's more a fantastic element of it. But largely, it's you know, that's kind of like our job as like a man. And a lot of us just wanted to find out, well, what would really happen in a self-defense situation. We've heard that most people freeze up. We watch in our first matches. Most people freeze up. They burn all their energy, and then they go out often in the backyard and lie down and get sick, and some throw up. So we want to just find out, I don't know, I guess prove just how tough we are to ourselves, see if we can take a punch as well as give one.
Okay. How about you?
Well, I think my reasons are a little different from Gint's. I have a pretty short attention span, so if I go to the gym, I can't quite run on a treadmill. It just doesn't appeal to me.
Me neither.
Now,
It's like
but if I've
torture,
got
actually.
someone swinging a stick at me,
It's totally
well, I'm going to run around. I'm going to jump around and swing back and try to
Okay.
block. So it's very motivating to stay in shape if not getting hit in the face depends on it.
Yeah, I would run away if someone was chasing me with a chair too.
Well, it's a garage. You can't run very far.
So I don't know.
Now, he was involved in the first chair fight.
Oh yeah,
So you're a chair pioneer.
I was the chair pioneer.
Yeah, why don't you tell me about the chair fight?
Well, it actually looks pretty good, but when the chair hit you, it doesn't really feel that much pain. So if it's not gonna be my first weapon of choice, but nonetheless, it's curious to find out what happened. You know, we saw this kind of chair fighting scene a lot in the movie,
Right.
Jackie Chan. So we gotta
Professional
be
wrestling.
Yeah.
That's true.
Jackie Chan for a moment,
I mean, these are like classic kinds of scenarios, really.
right? And hey, Gin break his chair on me, and I was stealing a piece to talk here. So that's.
Okay, so let's say, all right, someone shows up. Okay, what happens? Okay, they show up to the fight club and the fighting club, and what do you say to them?
Well, usually we give them a surprise, as in, welcome to the Gentleman's Fighting Club. And if it's your first night, you fight first.
Oh no!
So we pair them off, and the reason it's actually highly educational to see what someone that hasn't been in that situation would do. You know, they haven't seen anybody else do it, so it's like it's a huge panic rush for them.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So
We'll be fighting with nuclear missiles tonight, so.
yeah, so we set them up, and the idea really isn't to go in there and beat the hell out of your friends. It's more it's a tribe. You want to make every member of the tribe stronger. So you start them off a little easier, you match up things, and then you progress according to their ability. But I have to say, that first time for everyone is a moment they'll remember. I know a lot of people actually try it only once, and that's
You
enough.
wonder?
That's enough for them, and you know, they've satisfied their curiosity, or they've said, oh, you know, I have to go back and train, I have to get in shape, or do some cardio, stop smoking, or some other positive or self-destructive aspect.
Go back to the treadmill.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to look at a video clip, and this is a clip with you fighting. And you'll see a little bit about what I'm talking about. And as I said before, there's a lot of unique instruments that they used to fight with. So it's a very interesting clip. You're going to really like it. So check it out. This is the Gentleman's Fight Club. Check it out. We'll be right back.
I see a few new faces here tonight, which means you fight first.
Yeah.
Let's go!
Take up! Like real well.
All right, we're back here with What's Up With That with the Gentleman's Fighting Club. And let me talk a little bit about the club. So how often do you meet?
Well, it's twice a month, and we have most of the months of the year covered. We take a break in the summer, mostly to recover. Everybody goes for, I don't know,
You can go to the antique, you can go to
therapy, spas, surgeries, or
antique
whatever.
shops to look for some new instruments.
Exactly, some creative input.
Yes,
right.
mostly dumpster diving.
Yeah, dumpster diving. Really, a pink flamingo there that disappeared on my neighbor's lawn. We'll
It's
see
not
in
a
the
bad
next
idea,
one. So you meet like twice a month. And describe the environment that you meet in.
It's a two-car garage with no padding on the floors or the walls. The whole idea is to keep the environment very similar to what's around us in real life. So we have hard floors. If you fall on the hard floor, you should really know what to do. Our world is paved. And to pad it up would take some of the realism out of it. You learn a lot of techniques to actually in martial arts classes where you fall on the mat and that's kind of like your friend. And if you try to do a lot of those techniques, say on a asphalt surface, you'd find that you'd hurt yourself more than the person you're trying to perform.
And I guess
on.
probably once you've done it a couple times, you certainly learn
To respect the
precaution.
floor.
I mean, it's human nature, right?
Yeah.
If you run into a wall, you kind of tend to look at walls a little differently. So, safety. Let's talk about safety. What kind of gear do you wear? What kind of safety protection do you have?
Well, I'd like to start off by saying fighting with weapons is dangerous. Fighting is dangerous, period. I wouldn't recommend anybody trying this on their own without an adult that has already done something like this. We really try to use as little padding as possible because that takes away from the realism. But none of us wants to lose an eye or anything like that.
So that would be a bummer.
Yeah, so we put on the masks, and that's really important. We wouldn't want anybody watching this show to get the idea that you can just pick up a stick and swing it at somebody else without damaging them. So it's very important to understand. Don't want to lose an eye.
Right.
We wear some protection in other parts. Sometimes some gloves with it when you use harder weapons like a chair or a stick, and of course something to protect below the belt.
Yeah.
That area.
That's all right. We can talk candidly about that here.
Yeah.
But we do wear cups, at least our girlfriends haven't.
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah.
So they come in, you're in this garage, you've put on your safety gear, and then what happens? Do you have an MC? Do you have somebody that is a ringleader for?
Yeah, often we have my friend Steve. He dons a tux and he MCs the entire event, starts and stops the fights, and fights they usually go on, for about a minute, which is pretty much what an office worker can take. I mean, we're regular people. We're several rungs below professional boxers and martial artists, and maybe like one rung above the typical office worker or geek, kind of like an enhanced geek.
An enhanced geek.
I believe the technical term is Geek Plus Plus.
Geek plus plus.
Okay. So you are the Geek Plus Pluses. Okay. Well, I like that. Actually, I've never heard that term, but I'll start applying it now when necessary. So.
Yeah, he starts it off. People basically they choose whoever they want to fight. Sometimes I got to prod them a little bit. Oh, come on, you can do a fifth fight. It's all right. Put them out there with weapons. They can start and stop.
Fifth fight, is that what you said?
Yeah.
I'd be out of there after the first 10 seconds.
No, some people can only stand one, and it's mostly due to physical conditioning, because pretty much the average man has about maybe 30 seconds of fight in them. I mean, just imagine running around the track as fast as you can. It's hard to do 440 yards. 220 yards is pretty much what people can do. But fights go on as long as they have to. We've had some really long ones. We had this awesome fight between, check this out, a man and a woman that went on for 8.5 minutes.
Cool.
And they're sitting there pummeling each other. They just couldn't take each other out. So if it's really good, we let it run a lot longer.
So do you have certain people who might get their butt whooped the last time you had met, and then the next time they show up with an attitude and they're ready for some revenge here?
It doesn't really happen. I mean, we're all friends. None of us really has attitude. I mean, we're just doing it for fun. We're not trying to
Well,
get
that's
back
good.
in anybody.
I mean,
So if you've lost a fight, hopefully you've learned something and you can apply that in your next fight.
okay, so it's a learning experience.
It's a learning experience.
All right, so let's go back now to the newbie, because that's the thing that I think the audience would probably be most interested. For those who would want to come to the Gentlemen's Fighting Club, they kind of might want to know what they're getting themselves into. So here comes the beginner, all right? And you probably all know it already, right? It's like, here's a beginner, whatever, showing up. Okay, what do you say, welcome?
We say welcome, and it's since this is your first night, you fight first. We suit them up, and shortly afterwards, put them up. If we have two newbies, even better, and say go. Typically, we don't start them out with the most dangerous things. Actually, one of the safest things, believe it or not, is fighting with those They look like knives, but
With
they're
the training
not knives.
knife.
They're yeah, with a training knife.
You know if you hit someone, you've got a real hit in, but since they're not sharp, you can't hurt someone very bad with a blunt knife.
Well, I have been, the newbies myself and fought another newbie. And generally what happens is you go into this new setting, you don't know what's going on. And especially with knife, right, the objective is not really to hit them very hard, but really to cut them. It's not a real knife, but that's the psychology goes through our mind. So you do keep certain distance, and so it's actually safer that way, rather than if we go into stick or just short clubs, where a lot of time you end up getting very close and you punch each other.
It is interesting on the first time someone fights. Most people will either play very defensive, wait for the other person to come, or
Yeah, I
they'll
can
just
imagine.
charge in and start throwing blows. Now, if it's two people who both fight defensively, it can be a pretty boring fight. They just sort of stand there
Yeah.
until we all get sick
Yeah,
of
in my
watching.
first
Yeah.
time, I have never trained with a knife fight before, but I have trained in some martial arts, so I thought actually I can handle a situation like this. And boy, I'm glad actually this is the training and simulated fight, because you probably got killed 10 times in a minute. Imagine how many times you can get killed in a minute.
So you talk about martial arts, and it's been brought up a couple times. How do martial arts play into the fighting club?
Well, martial arts, man has been doing this for all time. It's a school for learning, self-defense or combative techniques depending on the era. We're in a peaceful era, so it's self-defense for us right now. And you study them with people over and over and over again. After a while, you get used to them, and you just want to test it with new people and new environment. I'm a third-degree black belt in Goshin Jutsu Kenpo, which is an art that came from Hawaii.
You'd be the last person I'd want to have to go up against as a newbie, right?
Well, that's
Don't
actually.
y'all go, look at this one here.
Well,
it's
maybe
gonna be
because
Last
good.
person is
Maybe
fourth
good.
degree.
Hey, get out your
Yeah.
digital camera. This is going to be good.
Well, maybe because I'm a
There's
little
one
bit
for the
bigger.
web page here, okay.
Actually, you look pretty athletic. I think you do very well. It's just that a larger person is a little more intimidating. But inside the school, you never really get to test everything because it's a little bit too dangerous. So we have to actually go outside. It's a little more risky, but at least we can test it. A lot of the guys that come here have some martial arts training, but be it either actually at a martial arts school or in sports like football or hockey, which I consider to be equivalent experience.
Okay. I'm wondering, it looks like sometimes there's some injuries here and there. What's some of the worst injuries that some of you have had, sustained?
All right. Well, okay.
I've definitely been injured. At one time I've got 2 black eyes just from a good punch to the nose.
You had the raccoon effect?
The raccoon effect.
is
And,
not enough.
afterwards, my friend was joking.
You're eating wood or something?
Yeah, well, that's going to look pretty ugly. It's a good thing you don't have to go to a wedding.
Yeah.
I said, well, a funny thing that,
Good
because
it wasn't your wedding, right?
at least it wasn't my wedding.
Okay. What about you?
Well, I've been doing it for a long time, and I fight pretty much every session, unless I'm actually injured with a broken finger. You typically get a lot of bruises and cuts, every time. Broken bones happen, usually the smaller ones. One time I broke my finger, like right in the first fight at the beginning of the night, and I didn't even notice it because I also broke my rib, cracked my rib here, and and that one hurt more, so this one was nothing. But I've seen a number of harder injuries. Everything is put into the context of, hey, what would happen if I really get hit? Can I keep on going? So it's actually important to work through those. Whether you get the wind knocked out of you and you fall down, how fast can you get back up and finish the fight?
I mean, it also seems like there's strategy involved here. What is the strategy of the Fight Club?
Strategy, you mean in a fight?
Yeah.
Well, don't get your wind knocked out first. That's a strategy.
Don't go down in 2 seconds.
That don't go down is actually smart, because I fought against many times, and if I'm still standing, I still can fence myself, and it takes him a lot of work to put me down. But if I'm down on the floor, he would like stab, and even through the mask, I feel this sense of desperation. I was like,
I
that's
can
the
imagine.
end of the day kind of things. And if it's in a real fight, I will just get up and tell him, oh no, in real fight, I will just be there and never get up.
Yeah. Okay. So, how often do people actually get bad injuries in the Fight Club? I don't know if bad is.
You know, it's not too bad. It's, what would you say?
I mean, it's pretty rare that people get injuries that will keep them.
I mean, it's
Keep
like
them-
any,
keep them
I guess
injured
that's not
for
a
more
fair
than a week
question
or
because it's
two.
kind of like any other sport, you know. I mean, in
you can certainly get bruises pretty often that will last a week
Yeah.
or two, but in terms of, you know, breaking a major bone or spraining something where you can't walk for a few
Yeah.
weeks or a month, it does happen, but I'd say it's pretty rare.
So do you wake up like the next day and you're like,
They,
ah.
they
Oh,
hurt more the next
yeah,
day.
she didn't
They,
provide all
they
the.
definitely hurt more the next day.
Oh yeah, I'm sure because the adrenaline must just like take you through the moment. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the-
in the frenzy and the fury of the
Right.
fight, you
Yeah.
right.
You don't feel anything in a
in
fight.
any kind
yeah.
of physical.
You've
you know,
got enough adrenaline,
contact.
enough go that it won't bother you until afterwards
Yeah,
and the
and,
next
and
day.
I always said that to me the nastiest wound is on the ribs because those places take months to heal. And one time, well, not more than one time, I got punched there, and then I was always kind of curious whether it was broken or not. So I actually kind of try it every day to see the attacks off, because that's the only.
You had to push that bone, stick it out,
do.
kind of back in there.
Yeah, I mean sometimes
Put
you,
the Band-Aid back
yeah,
on.
sometimes you can't tell if it's broken or not. It just it kind of swells up in there. Then after a couple weeks, maybe the swelling goes. Is it jammed or is it broken? Swelling goes down and it's kind of like crunchy or something. Then you know you should go and have it checked.
So let me ask you, what are your weapons of preference? What are your favorite? I mean, you must say, oh, all right, I got the chairs this time or something. Well, I mean, I would. I'd be like, you know, all right. What? I mean, is there something that you particularly excel in, maybe, or like?
Well, he has a specialty.
I really like the shinais, which are wooden swords or eskrima weapons. I generally like fighting with the larger weapons because I'm really bad at close fighting or ground fighting. I've only taken a very small amount of unarmed martial arts. And I really can't go to the ground because my knees are really messed up from a motorcycle accident.
Okay.
I've got the titanium and all
You
this
set
good
off the
stuff.
alarms at the airport, all that stuff.
Yeah, especially
the
nowadays,
terrorist
but-
thing going on.
But so basically, anything that can keep the other person far enough away that I won't go to the ground. I definitely have a preference for that.
How about you?
For me, knife is my favorite weapon, and I'm a shorter guy, but I'm quicker. So a knife at my hand could become more a better weapons. Especially when I fight big guys like Gins, he kind of keep him a distance in check.
You're the bad guy.
I have a lot of respect
Okay.
for him. For
We
him
already
with the
ID'd the
knife.
bad guy in this group here. No. So anyways,
No,
just
they're
kidding.
they're all bad. The knife is the equalizer, even for smaller guys or for women. It really kind of evens things out pretty quickly. Isn't that what you'd say?
Definitely, that's what I feel too. Because for a bigger guy, a lot of time without any training, right? They're just naturally stronger. And if you actually get into a close match with just the match between strengths, the smaller guy would just lose. But with a knife, that actually can dramatically equalize.
I like the chairs. I mean, that's just cool stuff, okay? The chairs would be cool. I wouldn't want to be the one fighting with chairs, but I'd like to watch it. Entertaining stuff. What about your membership, okay? How do you get your membership, and does it grow? Does it kind of sustain itself? Is it the same sort of group of people?
No, it's up and down. It's usually
What do you sustain your membership?
through personal
They
reference.
can still walk. Okay, you come back next week.
It's pretty much a members only Evite. It's all organized on the internet.
Okay.
With email, everyone kind of checks in on there. I screen pretty carefully because I want to make sure that you know everyone's safe. You have the right mentality.
That
for
they
it.
understand
Yeah,
what's
they're no
going
hot.
on.
I mean, they're no hotheads. We're not a gang.
Right.
You know, this is not a criminal activity. We're not going out and afterwards committing random acts of violence on corporate art.
Yes,
or,
right. Yeah, really.
Or anything.
Destroying the shark statues in downtown
Or
San
anything like
Jose.
that. But I think a lot of people, they come in through personal reference, like from other people that have fought. Like, what's that story you were telling me about bringing in your one friend after watching The Matrix?
Well, so it
Could
was.
you articulate on that, please?
We were just talking about Matrix and you know, the kung fu scenes, and I said, you know, those things just not real, and he told me that, you know, there's this private fight club, and so I thought I can show him a good time, come in. As it turned out, his kung fu is better, so the force is strong with him.
May the force be with you. One last thing that you brought up a minute ago is women. So you do have women in the Fight Club, and they do the same thing as men in the Fight Club with the same criteria?
Largely, there aren't a lot of women. There aren't really a lot of women that want to do something like this, or play a lot of guy-oriented activities like football. But nonetheless, they do need self-defense, actually more than guys do. So I'm willing to provide them the experience for it. A lot of the guys have, you know, like there aren't really enough women to fight each other, so we kind of mix it up, and that makes it kind of controversial. Like, what happens when a man fights a woman?
Yeah, that makes it more interesting, though.
It makes it more interesting. I mean, you know, we adjust it. We do honestly go a little easier on them. The whole idea is, you know, you want to provide them a good experience. You don't want to go too easy because you know, you want to give them a good experience, but you don't want to go too easy. Otherwise, you're kind of, you know, ripping them off. They're not getting the genuine thing. What do you think?
I'm not sure that's necessarily true. Of the women who showed up,
The 400-pound.
they mostly seem to do it not for learning or self-defense, but mostly because they want to hit people.
Right. Oh, that's cool, you know.
Which is cool.
Whatever, pots and pans, you know.
And they've definitely proven themselves.
Okay, we only have time for one more question. It has to be brief. And to you know, tie it all together, how has the fighting club affected your life, your personal life?
Well, largely, I think that we live in a world of like prepared entertainment. This is our own activity. This is something that we as a group have invented. We look forward to it every week. It's also a social activity, so it's not just like playing cards, because we are actually hitting each other.
Right.
But I think it's basically bringing us back to our roots, and we find
kind
it
of
very
the fraternity sort of
yeah,
thing.
the whole fraternity thing and proving ourselves in person-person combat. We find that very satisfying.
Okay, quickly.
Well, I'd say it's nice to have an outlet where we can all practice together in a supportive environment.
Cool.
Before this, I actually we used the empty cube down the hall at work for the fencing and the Thai kickboxing. So it's better to
The
have
copy machine, whatever.
it's better to have a more official place for that.
All right, real quickly.
To me, like adventures and something's worth talking about or even remembering.
Okay, cool. All right, well, that's all the time we have for What's Up With That and the Gentlemen's Fight Club. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I think it was a very interesting topic, and hopefully those who watch this episode will become more interested in this, finding out a way to work out aggression and become friends. You know, work out aggression with a friend sounds good to me. So, you know, check it out. If it's interesting to you, you will have contact information that will be appearing very shortly. And to our viewing audience, I hope you like this show. Boom! I hope you feel a lot better. And as always, if you're walking down the street and you see something interesting and you wonder to yourself, hey, what's up with that? Well, tune into our show, What's Up With That. Maybe you'll find exactly what you're looking for. We'll see you next week on What's Up With That. Good night, everybody.
Club, I'd say it's 100% fighting, non-commercial, and no instruction. It's basically a time and a place for guys to show up and fight, you know, test themselves. It's not really anything about, you know, propagating violence or anything like that. It's an extreme sport where we test ourselves in person-to-person combat. Afterwards, give each other a hug, have a beer, and watch it all on videotape.
Soon to be in the X Games, right? It would actually be very interesting in the X Games. I'd like to see how CBS would handle that. So how did your fight club get started?
Well, we all have a background in martial arts training, and we decided to try it with weapons. We always thought, okay, well,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's Up With That, the show that brings you interesting people, places, cultures, and subcultures here in the South Bay, the San Francisco Bay Area, the state of California, and beyond. And tonight, what's up with the Gentlemen's Fighting Club? What is a fighting club? And why would someone want to join a fighting club? Well, when I was little, my mom always told me that fighting never solves anything. Well, that's when I was little. After growing up watching several videos, I learned to realize that violence has become such a phenomenon that I might as well just go with it. Well, we have a group here today that's gone further than going with it. They are the Gentlemen's Fighting Club, and what they do is they fight with everything. I mean, you got a chair, they'll beat you with it. You got a pan, they'll bop you over the head with it, and you will like it probably. Anything. There's no limits, I guess. Well, we'll find out. Joining me tonight from the Gentlemen's Fighting Club are, and we're going to try our best with these names because you all know how good I am with them, Gins Clemanis. Did I do that right?
How are you, Andrew? That's perfect.
That's a miracle. All right. We got Shinsu.
Hey, you got that right.
See, and we're on a roll here, and we got Nick Sanders. That was the hardest one of all. Welcome to What's Up With That. Thanks for coming.
Well, thanks
all
for
right,
having
you
us.
ready to rock and roll, boys?
Yes, we are.
All right, well, let's start off with what is exactly a fight club?
Well, we look at it as an activity for self-defense training. We made it into a bit of an extreme sport. So how would you define a fight? You touch somebody with a stick and boom, they're down. And we
Smack.
outside of class without exactly smack, whoosh, boom. We tried
Sorry.
apologies are necessary. We tried it outside of class, and we found out, hey, we didn't die. So we started swinging
That's a good
harder.
thing, you know?
Yeah, we started swinging harder, and it was really interesting to find out if we could defend ourselves against someone swinging not just a stick, but pretty much any object around the house, be it a blunt aluminum training knife, not sharp, to long wooden sticks, about 28 inches long, to pans, to
This is great stuff here.
soda cans in a pillowcase.